Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to talk about a couple of things I think about when I feel like I need to brush up on smooth bow changes. Maybe I'm playing a passage that needs to be particularly seamless, or I just feel a little bit like icky in general. Sometimes you kind of go to do something, you get a little extra noise in there, and you want it to be just pure even tone. One thing to think about is consistent speed. Are you doing anything real goofy going into the bow change, like maybe suddenly speeding up your bow? I see students do this all the time and it's almost comical. I mean, you don't know sometimes what you're doing when they're kind of cruising and then like a little whip at the end. So double check with yourself, is your bow speed consistent? Because we want the string to be happily, consistently resonating over that bow change. What you could do is stick on a metronome. So if quarter note equals 80 here, let's say we're going to practice consistent bow speed by spending the bow evenly over 4 counts. We'll do this on a down bow and then immediately back into an up bow where we do the same thing. Here we go. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. So notice I'm trying to evenly spend the bow over those 4 counts. When I'm halfway through the bow. So that is step 1. Make sure you have a consistent bow speed. I bet you could already tell that I got some pretty nice smooth bow changes there because I was not like shocking the instrument in any way. In doing that exercise, I also like to think about, number 2, having flatter hair and just a very straight bow and consistent contact point. So what do those things look like? Obviously you're not going to use all your hair all the time. It depends really on what effect you're going for, but it's good to be able to do that comfortably. So I sit here. You want to see the stick centered over the hair. This camera is about at the right angle, so you can see a little hair on both sides of the stick as I pull it, meaning that I'm really using flat hair. I'm also going to pull the bow so that it stays perpendicular or in a perfect plus sign with the string I'm on, which is G. Skating up and down the cello. You can watch yourself in the camera like I'm doing with you right now. I also have a mirror out here. Actually, I love to practice in front of a mirror because chances are if you're doing something that looks funny and you catch it in the mirror, it is not good cello technique. That's the other part of this, is basically you're going to sound like what your choreography looks like is going to be reflected in your sound. So if you are doing anything that's like sudden and jerky, you're gonna hear it come out on the cello. If we want a smooth bow change, you should look a little more seamless and graceful in your actions. My undergrad teacher, Alan Harris, actually used to say that changing your bow is like rowing a boat. So if you can picture like a crew team, especially when you see everyone do that together, you see that motion real big all together, or even if you've ever rowed a rowboat at all, it's a little circular, right? So keep in mind that some of your joints are hinge joints, which means they only go this one way, open and close this one way. Our shoulder though, which is really a big part of our bow change, is a ball joint. So your shoulder moves naturally in a circular pattern, right? It has all this space to go. And because of this, your elbow, you can see if I go from the side, my elbow ends up moving and making circles too, because that's the nature of how shoulder moves. So you should be seeing those little circles and the roundedness of that being made when you have a smooth bow change. So again, right? Just with this hinge joint, it is changing your bow is a full arm activity. One other note while I'm thinking about it, if you are changing bow during a note where you're using vibrato, which you probably are doing most of the time, There's another little trick to keep in mind too. You can have a smooth bow change, but your left hand needs to work together a little bit. If you are vibratoing, if I slow that down, you really hear the wavering of the pitch, right? And that's what vibrato is an actual change in pitch. You hear, so it has a top arc, like the highest pitch above, swoops back down, comes back up. If you are not hearing that kind of waver in your vibrato when you slow it down, you might want to check out my separate blog post from about 3 or 4 weeks ago. I'll link to it below. It was my top 3 favorite vibrato exercises to help you develop that audible and consistent pumping motion. For now, it is really important to note that when you are changing your bow, it will be especially seamless if you can match the bow change with the top of that arc of pitch. So when the vibrato motion is being pumped toward the bridge, if you can actually time the bow change, and that's like a painfully slow demonstration, but if I time the bow changes on the upswing of that vibrato, then it's going to be especially seamless. This is super helpful too. If you're playing a high note and it's like super high and dramatic and you're holding it out and you have to spend more bow to get it to be the kind of beautiful resonance and tone that you need, you're going to get to hide those bow changes if you, again, follow the same rule. Finally, I would say that something else that helps me really just kind of reset when my bow is feeling uncomfortable is to just practice changing bow at different points of the bow, right? Because it's going to feel different. So step 1 of that would be to just simply put the bow down. Try to start anywhere in the bow. I would exhale, let your dead weight just kind of sink in, and start the bow and make sure you get an immediate and resonant sound. If you're getting a bunch of like a crunch before the sound, probably something's a little bit off with your weight or just the general tension that you have in your bow. So without thinking about it too hard, I like to just practice starting cleanly at different parts of the bow. You can then translate that into playing scales using only a certain part of the bow. So if I'm only using the middle of the bow, now I'm going to practice bow changes at the tip of the bow. Everything is as seamless no matter where you are. It's good to isolate different parts of the bow when you're practicing smooth bow changes because it just reminds you that physically you're going to be moving differently depending on where you are. So if I am more toward the upper part of the bow or the tip, I'm going to have a different kind of tension in my arm and a different kind of slant than when I'm collapsed in at the frog, right? Generally, what you want to go for is relaxed dead weight and a general downward slant. You don't want to see anything looking strained or like poking out. Everything should kind of flow gradually so that the weight of your entire arm kind of flows down and is centered, all directed toward the contact point where your bow meets the string. So that was some food for thought. I hope that helps. You kind of center yourself and feel really good about your bow changes today. If you have any questions or comments, of course, feel free to send me a message over my website or leave them below. And feel free to share other tips and tricks. There are like endless possibilities for this, and no one thing fits all. It fits everyone's physicality. So I like to hear what works best for you too. Happy practicing, and I look forward to seeing you next time.